Stoicism is a philosophy most popularly associated with Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic school of philosophy was founded by Zeno of Citium at around 300 BC, the supreme goal being living in agreement with nature, which implies both living in harmony with the universe and acceptance of its nature and laws, and also living in agreement with ourselves, being consistent between our thoughts and actions. This allows us to flow through life smoothly and with inner peace, flourishing as individuals and fulfilling our human nature, achieving eudaimonia, commonly referred to as happiness, although a better translation would be fulfilment. One of Stoicism's main misconceptions is that it may seem cold-hearted or unemotional. This is simply not the case. In the beginning of Marcus's meditations, he spends a whole chapter reminding himself of the most important things about the most important people in his life, his family and teachers. Instead of studying philosophy in an abstract and theoretical way, Marcus shows the study of real-life examples of Stoicism being applied in daily life as an art of living that we can best grasp as the true meaning of the philosophy. The modern Stoics often refer to the four cardinal virtues recognized by Plato and Christianity, although they might date back even further than this. These virtues are courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. Virtue comes from the Latin word virtus, which means moral excellence. The ancient Romans used this word to refer to all of the excellent qualities of men, including physical strength, valorous conduct, and moral rectitude. To be virtuous is excellence at being human, giving way to happiness and harmony. Aristotle defined virtue as a point between a deficiency and an excess of a trait. The point of the greatest virtue lies not in the exact middle, but a golden mean sometimes closer to one extreme than the other, such as confidence between self-deprecation and vanity. The Stoics held that virtue is the only real good, and so is both necessary and sufficient for happiness. These virtues can be understood as a way of living harmoniously with our own self, with other people, and with external events in the world. The Stoics use wisdom for living according to our true nature, justice for living harmoniously with other people as part of a community, and courage and temperance for living and embracing the fate that we are subject to with respect to external events. These virtues, of course, are all interrelated and overlap. One must, for example, have the necessary moral wisdom applied to one's actions to act justly in relation to other people, or be courageous enough to allow for self-restraint or moderation. The Stoics offered an analogy. Just as someone is both a poet, an orator, and a general, but is still one individual, so too the virtues are unified but applied to different spheres of action. So, without further ado, these are the 4 Stoic virtues to live by. Courage. Courage is the opposite of the vice of cowardice. We are to bravely stand up for what we believe, facing daily challenges and struggles with no complaints, all the while being a good person. We are to strive for objectivity, since what causes human suffering is not the things in the world, but our beliefs about those things. We are to try to perceive the world as it is in itself. Without this subjective coloring, we automatically tend to ascribe to everything we experience. For the Stoics, courage also extends to the endurance of pain, discomfort, and even death. One is to be unmoved by fear and willing to confront danger, pain, or intimidation. Aulus Gellius tells the story of an unknown Stoic teacher caught in a storm at sea. There was a terrifying storm where the boat was in danger of sinking and the crew drowning. The Stoic teacher was frightened and turned ghastly pale, but unlike the rest, he wasn't uttering any lamentations. After a while, the sky cleared and the sea grew calm. The Stoic teacher was approached by a man of elegant apparel who said in a bantering tone, "What does this mean, sir philosopher, that when we were in danger you were afraid and turned pale, while I neither feared nor changed color?" The teacher did not respond to his question, and they parted ways. However, when they were approaching land, the teacher was approached by someone else, who asked him what the reason for his fear was, which he refused to reveal to the man who had improperly addressed him. He answered that even the mind of a wise person is bound to be disturbed, and to shrink back and grow pale for a moment, not from any idea that something bad is going to happen, but because of certain swift and unconsidered movements which forestall the proper function of the mind and reason. Before long, however, the wise person refuses to give his assent to these terrifying visions of the mind, but rejects them, and sees nothing in them that ought to inspire him with fear. And that is the difference, they say, between the mind of a wise person and that of a fool, that the fool thinks that the things that initially strike the mind as harsh and terrible really are such, and then, as if they were truly to be feared, goes on to approve them by his own assent. Whereas one who is wise, after being briefly and superficially affected in his color and expression, does not give his assent, but retains the consistency and firmness of the opinion that he has always had about mental visions of this kind, namely that such things are in no way to be feared, but arouse terror only through false appearances and empty alarms. Justice. Different from the modern conception of justice in the legal sense, the Stoics refer to it more to what would be moral in our dealings with others by treating others fairly and doing the right thing. As Marcus Aurelius said, do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. Thus, it is a much broader concept of social virtue, encompassing kindness, benevolence, and goodwill toward others. The theme of the Stoic hero or wise man who protects weaker members of his herd recurs throughout the surviving Stoic literature. He will face a lion and endure pain and injury from his claws to defend the weaker members, because their lives instinctively matter to him, as our family and kin, ultimately to love one's brothers and sisters. The Stoic Hierocles recommends that we imagine our relationship as consisting of a series of concentric circles. Naturally, we are at the center, our family and friends are in the next ring, then our community, all humanity, and eventually loving the whole of Earth. We are to draw those in the outer circles closer to the center. Temperance. Not to be confused with the temperance movement against the consumption of alcohol. To Stoics, temperance is moderation or self-discipline. There must be a balance to know what to choose, what to avoid, and what things not to do at all. We are to do the right number of things in the right way, avoiding excess through sheer willpower. If someone is provoking you to fall into vice, inciting violence, fear, hatred, and so on, one is to respond thoughtfully and calculatedly, instead of being reactionary and responding with one's emotions. A great way to practice this virtue is journaling. The Stoics were big on journaling. Nassim Taleb defines Stoicism as the domestication of your emotions, not the elimination of your emotions. Epictetus, who was a former slave, says, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." This, of course, overlaps with courage. The first thing in life for a Stoic is to separate the things which are up to us and things that are not up to us. In Stoicism, this is known as the Dichotomy of Control. We are simply to accept things outside our control for what they are, focusing on what we can control and how we respond to these things. Wisdom. Wisdom or prudence can be gathered through learning, discussion, and trial and error. The wise man is able to offer himself good counsel. As Seneca says, "A man with white hair and wrinkles hasn't lived long, he has just existed long. Your time is valuable, and it is the only thing that you cannot ever get back. Therefore, one must develop oneself." The Stoics believe that the person who has achieved perfect consistency in the operation of his rational faculties, the wise man, is extremely rare, yet serves as a prescriptive ideal for all. Progress toward this noble goal is both possible and vitally urgent. Wisdom for Stoics can be referred to the nature of the good, virtue, and bad, vice. Things that are indifferent, which neither benefit nor harm, and knowing how to act appropriately under different circumstances. In essence, it is to understand the most important things in life, closely related to the meaning of the word philosophy, the love of wisdom. Alienation from our fate is a common theme in the Stoic literature, and is often marked by frustration. The Stoics practice amor fati, the love of fate, embracing whatever happens in one's life. To take ownership of our fate, we need to understand the indifferent nature of the external reality and live in harmony with events beyond our control. Following these virtues, we can avoid the trap of becoming inner slaves to our vices. These are the virtues that the Stoics live by on a daily basis to improve their lives and the lives of people surrounding them, applying them on each and every situation that they find themselves in. Ultimately, it is a philosophy that teaches us the art of living.